I was not working hard. I was just working more and I was just hustling because I never felt like I was doing enough and I never had enough clients. I never had enough money. I never had enough success. Welcome to the Life and Business Podcast. I'm your host, Sue Bravo. This episode is really just sharing like the mission behind the podcast and who this podcast is for. And so I want to read a little excerpt from this book by John Mark Comer. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I'm gonna read it first how it is said, and then I'm gonna kind of read it again for the listeners who this podcast is intended for. And so it says, if you are weary, if you're tired of life as you know it, if you have a sneaking suspicion that there might be a better way to be human, that you might be missing the whole point, that the metrics of success our culture handed you might be skewed, that said success might come out to look a lot like failure. Above all, if your time has come and you're ready to go on a counterintuitive and very counterculture journey to explore your soul in the reality of the kingdom, then, welcome to this book. We have secrets to tell you. And I would rephrase this a little bit to like the entrepreneurship journey, right? And so I felt like a big word that was coming up as we were kind of thinking about what this mission is or what is the purpose of another podcast. A big word that was coming up for me was countercultural, right? Thinking about success that people want you to have in your life and in entrepreneurship. You kind of go on Instagram and you see all these people with all these fancy cars and all these mansions, and they're selling you this dream, which is not bad at all. But the way that most people have got there, I felt like is very hustle culture based. And so when I read this sentence again, I feel like this is really encompassing the entire podcast. Is like you already have this kind of like what they say in this book is sneaking suspicion that there might be a better way to be an entrepreneur, right? So that's how I would phrase it for us who are listening here. And this part where it says like, if your time has come and you're ready to go on a counterintuitive and very countercultural journey to explore your soul and what I would say your calling in this entrepreneurship journey, I feel like this is a podcast for you. And the reason why I use this term counterculturally is because I feel like oftentimes what is shared when people are trying to help you become successful in entrepreneurship, this recurring theme is like you have to hustle and you have to grind and you have to work day in and day out, and you have to be the first one in the office and the last one to leave, and you have to sacrifice your family, your values and things like that to get to success. And I'm sure many people can relate, but I have even gotten to that phase of like, I started entrepreneurship to have freedom, right? To be with my kids more. But what I found was like listening to all these podcasts and all these gurus out there, what I found was I was working 24/7. I was like never really present with my family or my kids. And I realized, oh, this isn't the kind of success that people were telling me. This is not the kind of success that I really want. And so when we say counterculturally, I feel like a lot of the things that we are going to be talking about on this podcast, and even guests that are coming onto this podcast, we're just going to be talking about and sharing different stories and strategies of how you can create a successful life, an amazing life, and a really profitable business, but do it on your terms, right? In the ways that you actually want to be doing it. And something that I recently learned, I felt like it was like one of those hard lessons learned, was I wanted to learn from this person who was selling this, result of something that I really wanted to create, like this goal that I wanted to have. And in investing with them lots and lots and lots of money, I realized like, hey, I don't want to run my business how they run their business, right? Like it was just very, in my words, in my personal experience, it was like very unethical selling. It was a lot of like hustling and a lot of like doing work and sacrificing the things that you didn't want to. And so I feel like those are the hard lessons that if you are at the beginning of your business or further along ahead, eventually you will get to a point where you might invest in something, in a strategy or in a course, in a coaching program, that you realize, hey, I don't want to run my business this way. And that's your opportunity, right? I could have, taken the opportunity to be like, hey, you didn't really give me what you said you were going to give me. Like, I bought this thing, but you gave me this other thing. I could have taken that opportunity to go back and say what I wanted to say about their business. But honestly, I took that as an opportunity to just make a decision and decide this is not how I want to run my business. This is not how I want to live my life. This is not how I want to make lots of money and make lots of impact. If it's going to have me to, I would say, give up my values and my beliefs in how I run my business and or the kind of clients that I have and or how I help my clients. I think that was one of the biggest things is like I talk about helping clients to like actually get the result that they paid you for, right? And so when we talk about kind of culturally, I think that helping clients to create the result that they paid you to have, I think a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not responsible for my clients' results, but I want you to just reframe. This is an opportunity for you to reframe and think like, if they paid you money to help them with something, you kind of are responsible, right? I think about the analogy I give here is like, if I'm at Starbucks and I'm paying them $7 for a caramel frappuccino, when I go to the pickup side, I want to pick up a caramel frappuccino. I don't want them to be like, well, you paid me $7, but I'm going to give you this other drink instead, right? It would be so wild for us to experience that. And we would just be upset and we would be writing all these reviews and we would be on social media trying to cancel Starbucks. And so when I think about our businesses, like, is that the kind of business we want to have? Is that the kind of mentality that we also want to have here where we are not responsible for our client results? And so going back to just like, working in a different kind of way, creating a different kind of business so that you can create the life that you actually want to live. I want to talk about also hustle culture. I know that there was a point in time where I was working really hard before I had kids, I was in the like restaurant industry and I had all these different positions at this restaurant. I was the bartender, the chef, and the server, like all three of these different positions, and I was working really hard. And I feel like that's different from hustle. I feel like hustle comes from not feeling like we're doing enough, not feeling like we have enough. And so we have to keep working ourselves to the point of burnout. And there was a point in time where everybody was pitching this idea of like hustle culture. You have to hustle hard. You have to work really hard. And I think there's a difference between hustling and working hard because, again, I feel like I have experience working hard, but there was a point in my time where I was not working hard. I was just working more and I was just hustling because I never felt like I was doing enough and I never had enough clients. I never had enough money. I never had enough success. And that's where the hustle becomes just like it leads to burnout. And I think that there was a time a few years ago where so many people experienced burnout that now they've canceled hustle culture, right? Now it's not like this fun thing to say of like, I'm a hustler anymore. It's like, no, we don't want to experience that. And so actually this book, again, it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It talks about all of that, of like this hustle culture and just like being busy and rushing. And something else that I wanted to talk about in this episode specifically is that we are not, the people listening to this episode is like, we want to make lots of money so that we can make lots of impact, but we're not in a rush to do it. And if you are in a rush, that's okay. This is going to be the point in the episode where you get to just reframe your idea of what creating success means. I know for a lot of my clients, they want to create generational wealth, right? And even that phrase right there, generational wealth. Most of my clients are first generation in creating wealth in general, but they have this mindset of like, I need to create all of the wealth right now so that the next generation can have it and the next generation can have it. But that's not, like, in my mind, that's not the point of generational wealth. Like, the point is you begin this wealth so that the next generation can create more wealth and then the next generation can create more wealth. It's not your responsibility to create 3 generations of wealth in your one generation. And so going back to this idea of like rushing to success, I feel like a lot of people are just like, they feel like they have a limited timeline, a limited time frame to create X amount of money or X amount of success. And I just want to offer you that what if you were able to slow down and be able to create this kind of success you want in your business, but then also in your life. Because more often than not, when we're rushing to create success in our business, it's really hard to maintain or manage a really thriving life. And I wonder if you are having to sacrifice your family, your priorities, and your kids, right? Whatever your personal life looks like, if you have to sacrifice that, is the success in your business really worth it? I just want you to spend a couple minutes just really thinking about that. It's like, even right now, maybe you have a really, really successful business. I know clients who have businesses they've been running for 5 years, 10 years, right? That's like a whole decade of building a business. And now they have kids, and now they're like, oh, hey, you know what? I don't really want to prioritize this in my business. I don't want to run my business like this anymore. In fact, my coach, she's made millions and millions of dollars in her business. And she just had a kid, I think 2 years ago. And now I can kind of see her business shifting to where she is prioritizing like her family. She's changing up her business model, things that she has done for years and years that has made her all of that money. She's shifting her business model so that it works around her life. And so when we talk about this countercultural way of doing business and living life, that is a complete perfect example of how can we decide what kind of life we want to live, but then build a business that supports the kind of life that we want to have. And so in the probably the next episode or two, we're going to talk about intentionally creating the life that you want to have. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? And how can you begin to create the life and the business that you desire? And something else with just this concept of rushing to success and doing things counterculturally, I want you guys to just really understand that there's nothing wrong with doing the hard work. I want you to just evaluate, are you doing the hard work, the work that is required to create success intentionally? Are you focused on taking intentional action in your business, or are you just rushing and hustling and checking off a to-do list in your business all day, every day? And are you feeling like you're just glued to your business, checking your phone, checking your email constantly? And if that is what you feel like you're doing, the hustling, constantly being in your business and feeling like you can never let go, then I really invite you to continue on this journey with us on this podcast so that you can begin to, again, reframe your mind. Just change up the beliefs that you have about what success looks like societally, and come and get the strategies and listen to the stories so that you can be encouraged and equipped to live life well and do business better. Hey there, are you ready to create wealth, impact, and freedom as an entrepreneur? If so, I invite you to join me inside my coaching program. This is where you are going to learn the skills and the strategies to make a greater impact on the world while also becoming fully present in your personal life. You can do all of this without having to sacrifice your values, your beliefs, or your personal priorities. You can check the show notes and descriptions wherever you're watching or listening to the podcast to book your consultation today.